Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 100 of Simply Football Podcast. I am your co host, Peter, joined by my co host, Patrick.
How you doing?
And we got a good show for y'all today. Obviously, first things first, we have to talk about Portugal. Uh, on a very disappointing game, I'd say, against Iran. The game finished 1-1. There was some, controversy, in it. We'll get to it. But first things first. So I'll give you Portugal's lineup. So Patricio was in goal, Cedric, Pep, José Fonte, and Rafael Guerreiro across the back. Quaresma, André Silva, William Carvalho, and João Mário, Cristiano Ronaldo, and André Silva up top. So Patrick, a lot of changes. Three changes. What do you think of that?
Yeah, a lot of changes, and particularly the Adrian one. I know it was a change that I asked for, simply because I think he's a player that fits in best with William in the middle of the park. But given that we were playing against a team like Iran, who are very good defensively, and Fernando Sancho had come off the game against Morocco saying that his team needed to control the game a bit more and to maintain a foothold of things. I was surprised that Moutinho, who actually, in my opinion, I'm not Moutinho's biggest fan, but I felt like he certainly played quite well against Morocco and Spain, and I think he probably offers a bit more security in possession. I would have liked to have seen um, Portugal based their game around a more possession oriented style, but it didn't quite work out like that. And I felt like there was various periods of the game where Portugal, either coming from the back, they surrendered possession in a silly way, or once they actually had the ball at their feet, they didn't move the ball quick enough to ever break down Iran. And it's a problem. It's a bit of what we touched upon against Morocco, and how Portugal are really struggling to move things once they get into the final third. It seems like we're relying on a moment of brilliance from one player here or there in the attack, and that's exactly what Portugal got in the end when Quaresma scores obviously his amazing goal, one of the goals of the tournament. But you know, moments like that will only take you so far. I think the message that comes out of this is that obviously Portugal, they need more about them going forwards. They certainly need a bit more creativity, a lot more method in the way that they attack, because moments like Quaresma's they don't come around so often, and if you play against a team in the round of 16 that are a lot better in quality, far more prepared for what you have to offer, then there's always a prospect that you will end up in trouble. So that's the general feeling that I take away, obviously, from the game against Iran, as in the way that Portugal played. Obviously, coming away from it, we'll get into that, I'm sure, with the controversy at the end. How Portugal perhaps should have finished top rather than second with the draw. But yeah, certainly from the playing perspective, I think Portugal still have a lot of work to do, and I don't think they will ever cover those bases as a team going forwards. I think you have to work really hard to get that up to scratch, and I just don't think Portugal are there, or the I just don't think the work that they've put in will ever cover that. I think other teams around them that were going for the World Cup are far more ahead in their studies as a means to breaking a team down than Portugal are. So let's see if it's a deciding factor going further on in the tournament. I know it wasn't at the Euros, obviously, but then again, Portugal didn't win it in the most glamorous way, and that's sort of the frustration that Portugal carries going onwards in the tournament. Is that obviously they've got players like Ronaldo and Bernardo Silva, Gonçalo Guedes, Gelson, Bruno Fernandes, and so on. These are really good players that in a team like Portugal's, in anyone's mind, you think, yeah, we should be seeing some very good football come out of those players. But
Yeah. So can he finally is? Are we allowed to say sort of bad things about Fernando Santos, or are we still gonna say, "Oh, he won us the Euro, so we can't really criticize him"? Because I mean, it'll get hard to not criticize him with the way that we've been playing and with the players that we have. I mean, we did nothing to deserve a win against Morocco, and we did nothing to deserve a win against Iran. Yeah, we should have won against Iran, but still, like there was no football whatsoever, and it was what you said. It was a play, slow pace all around. William making a lot of backward passes instead of trying to move the ball forward too, and then the wingers also not helping. João Mario had another poor game. André Silva wasn't seen at all. I mean, I'm happy that
Yeah,
those that didn't want Gonçalo Guedes got to see what André Silva can bring to this team, which is absolutely nothing. Uh, but there's we got to put some blame on Fernando Santos. And the biggest thing to me was that he makes changes like 10 minutes before the end of the game. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you going to try and change things up now? You should have done it like 20 minutes ago. And I thought, I also thought Moutinho had a good game against Morocco, but I was like, this game is so physical. Please bring on Manuel Fernandes. And he brings on Moutinho. And I'm like, why did he call up Manuel Fernandes if he's not going to play? Like, some guys fit certain games. And I felt like this game needed some more, robust presence, someone more powerful. And he didn't give him that. And I don't understand why it took him so long to mess with the team too.
yeah. To me, I just think it. Obviously, coming into this tournament, there was a lot of talk about how the defense was very weak, and essentially it is, and especially for a manager like Fernando Santos, who does like to work his teams back to front. So I can see that he's caught in two minds, and he's perhaps thinking, right, we're going to absolutely keep our shape here rather than try anything fancy. So, there's not a lot of risks being taken because obviously the defence is so weak, and if we do start to take risks, then we start to see gaps
But I
appear
mean,
at the back.
there even
Um,
any risks? Are we even taking any risks though at
yeah,
all?
that's the thing. We would be taking risks if I think um, if perhaps more work was being put into the way we attack. I just don't think that that's being afforded to Portugal's attack at the moment. And you picked on two names there, which are, well, one was William and the other one was André Silva. I think from William's perspective, I think he had a decent game, but it's very difficult. I don't know what the instructions are, but it seems like players like Pepe, who's very good technically as a centre back, and Fonte, who isn't bad either. Um, these are two players that are receiving the ball, and they're not making they're not making possession tick. They can be very wasteful at times, and I just feel like simple instruction: keep the ball on the feet, look for the pass. It's very difficult to see because a lot of the time, what we actually see is William is the guy who comes from midfield, and he almost plays a role of a third centre back just to collect the ball. And I'm thinking, come on, someone like Pep who played for Real Madrid, he's got the quality. He can bring the ball out himself and make the possession flow. But instead, we're having William retreat and then also there's very few runs like in between the lines. We're not really seeing it. I think there was a few still shots on my Twitter timeline, and like Portugal had possession, and there was this huge amount of space between the midfield four and Ronaldo and De Silva. No one is getting in between that area, just on the edge of the area. Where trouble can be caused, and everything's very laboured once Portugal get into attack. I mean, we saw Spain. They had their struggles against Iran as well, but the way Spain moves the ball, 1-2 touches of the ball minimum, the ball is always flowing. Like if Spain can unlock Iran like that, then I certainly wasn't surprised that Portugal were unable to do it because everything was like everyone was taking 2, 3, 4, 5 touches and then playing the ball on, often sideways. The game was very like chewed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
and I felt like the things that Joe Mario was doing, even though he wasn't doing them that well, I just kept thinking, why isn't Quaresma doing the same thing? Like, why isn't he, going into the middle a little bit more, trying to create, something special? Because we needed that bit of flair.
Yeah.
We have him cut inside, kind of what João Mario was doing, but better, and just mix it up a little bit. And I didn't see any of that.
And when it plays like that, I mean, I know there's a lot of not rivalry, but there's a bit of a debate going on whether Guedes should start up front or whether Andre Silva should rekindle that relationship with Ronaldo. It's very difficult, even for a guy like Ronaldo, let alone Andre Silva, to really excel in those sort of conditions. Because as a striker, what you want, especially a striker like Andre Silva, you want to receive that ball early. You want to receive that ball when he's on the turn, on the final man, and the process that Portugal are putting together, it's just not quick enough at all. It's very easy for a striker like André Silva or any other striker, being worse or better than André Silva, to go missing in games like that. So it's there's certainly so much to work on, and we'll see whether that could be the difference between Portugal going far in this tournament or not. But it's certainly a worry for me.
It's scary, isn't it? Just look at it,
Yeah,
like on defense, it's fine. Midfield's okay. It's not bad, but going forward, there's just and just what really annoyed me was that there was no intentions of changing things up during the game, because we didn't see any position changes. I know that Rui Vitória isn't even seen as the most technical guy, but even he sometimes goes around switching, Salvin to the left, to Sevi to the right, try and get those guys in different positions to see what they can do. And we didn't see any of that from Fernando Santos. It was the same thing
yeah,
over and over again. And he only subs off Quaresma because, I mean, the dude literally kicks a guy in the nuts, and then he's like, okay, you're coming off. Because and that was like our first sub, and I was like, what, 75 minutes in? There wasn't, and we could clearly see that something was wrong, and he just doesn't work on fixing it, and that's what's really scary.
yeah. We could draw comparisons, for example, because a majority of that midfield was a Sporting midfield from 2016. And obviously, Sporting are playing different opposition under different circumstances, and all that we have to factor that in. But for example, the Adrian that we see for Portugal is very different to the Adrian that we saw at Sporting. Adrian was way more adventurous, and he himself from centre mid would pop up in between the lines, which is exactly what Portugal were missing when they were trying to move up the field. João Mario, another one, I thought he was very stuck to the wing sometimes, and he's not a winger. To me, he's a central midfielder, and we didn't get to see a player like João Mario in the areas that I think he excels, which is again going in between the lines, breaking past midfield and causing trouble that way. Um, and so I think there needs to be Portugal's too rigid essentially, and Fernando Sanchez needs to free up his team a bit. But obviously, by doing that, you risk losing the shape of your team, and as we said, the defense is so weak. You want to prioritize that as well, don't you? So,
But there's
um,
the there's timings though. There's
yeah,
opportunities where you can say, all right, y'all, you have, I don't know, 15 minutes to try and just be free, be fluid, do your thing. Don't be so stuck to my tactics or whatever. And if we see that we're lacking on defense, he could quickly switch that up and say, no, go back to what you were doing. We can't. We're getting exposed. And I just don't see us. Obviously being defensively solid is important, but at the same time, you need to play football, and we haven't played football for three
yeah.
games. You know,
I mean, if it comes out after the Morocco game and he says we need to be a bit. He's had a few sound bites like that where he says that Portugal need to be a bit more incisive and treat the ball better. So you do wonder whether if if he's not telling the team, you know, stick to the tactics, keep your shape, keep your structure. If that's not him saying that, and then you wonder whether some of the players aren't as confident as they should be in for example, um, in the defence or whatever. So perhaps the manager just isn't getting through to the players that way. But certainly, something has to change there. Um, Essentially, the attack is the problem. So I think the players really. I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Really.
It
I,
is.
yeah, it's. I'm lost. I'm lost for words, really.
Yeah, it's
Because
complicated.
as much as you want to say, oh, Fernando Sanchez is a defensive manager, and between defending and attacking, he's always going to choose what he does best, and that's prioritizing the defense. As much as you want to say that, it's then weird for him to come out with, as I said, soundbite saying that the team need to like make possession flow and take care of the ball a lot better, control games. It's you know what I mean. For a
Mhm.
manager to say that, he's obviously saying the same thing in the dressing room. Otherwise, he'd be in a way backstabbing the players for the performances that are being put on. So there must be an element there that the players think, oh, I don't know,
Maybe
I
it's just
don't, I
something
don't
that's not
trust.
clicking yet. Maybe it's just something that might not be clicking yet, too.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know.
But we're into the third game now, and you could probably accept that against Spain or maybe for parts of the Morocco game. But after you're playing against a team like Iran who will surrender possession and whatnot, so um, you do have the chance to essentially like show what you're made of. You would have hoped that Portugal would have shown a few signs there, because for confidence wise, it's not great and to put on a show like that and then go into a game like Uruguay, which is it's a final. Every game's a final from now on. But perhaps that's the sort of game that Portugal might thrive off. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, but it's just weird because I felt like Iran's team was being really aggressive, and I was like, we have fast players, we have tricky players, like tricky players to defend, like
Yeah,
Quaresma and Gelson and all those guys, and I just didn't see us take any advantage of it. And while we almost had Ronaldo red carded, they could have had a lot more players red carded.
yeah,
We have
exactly.
played
Yeah,
faster football, and like try to use our players to our advantage too. Because if we had Jelson out there, I don't know if they would be able to stop him easily. It would, and they would be more aggressive and more fouls and more
yeah, that's
yellows
right.
and
Yeah.
more opportunities and all that. And that's just felt weird. But anyway, so just getting to the controversy a little bit too now. First off, the Ronaldo penalty. Do you think it's actually a penalty, like the one that got awarded and that he missed?
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was a penalty at the time, and certainly to me it looked fair. That the referee gives it. The contact is made inside the box, and it takes Ronaldo off his course. So to me, I thought it was a penalty.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So at least we agree on that. Next up, I'm trying to go by chronological order. There's the Ronaldo play. What are your thoughts on that? Because I personally think that it's a little bit of the player. It's a bit theatrics in it. Like there's a
Yeah,
little bit of an elbow, but
mm,
it feels way too much for it to be a red card. And I think the right decision should have actually been nothing, because if he gives that a foul, then he has to believe that he got elbowed, and if he got elbowed, that's a straight red. There's no yellow in there. So I don't know what your thoughts on it on the play are.
Well, there was clear obstruction, or an attempt to obstruct from the Iranian player at the time, and there was obviously the danger that Ronaldo, having been blocked off on his way around, he would retaliate, and I think I'm not sure. I wouldn't say he sort of did, but like he almost did, and uh, in the future he needs to be more careful, obviously, with moments like that. And we've seen Ronaldo, succumb to those situations before at Real Madrid and what have you, where he does pick up a red card for similar situations. So I don't know whether that was something that the Iranians were targeting as they went on as a way to get into the game, perhaps. But I think the decision was fair in that he didn't get a red card. Obviously, it's interesting to see a VAR being used for a yellow in the end. But I think it would have been really harsh to see him being sent off. But he obviously has to be very careful with those sorts of situations because for sure there is an inkling of him moving his arm towards the player's face, and when you do that in football, you land yourself in trouble. So
Yeah, he definitely put himself, out there to get red carded. I just think it would have been, he was one of the softest. It would have been one of the softest red cards that I would see. So
yeah, in that instance, yeah, of course. But what if the replay shows a little bit more force, and which could have happened. Luckily, in that time, there wasn't enough in it. A little bit more, and I think Ronaldo would have been gone. So it's just one of those things you have to be. Um, Sometimes you just gotta cool off a bit.
and it's also
Obviously,
one of those. It's also one of those plays, and sorry to cut you off, that it feels like every time you keep watching the replay, it keeps being actually worse than it actually is. I don't know
yeah,
if you got that sense too, where
yeah,
it's just,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it. You just got to be a bit in situations like that because but obviously with VAR it's a little easier now, but in other times without VAR, you certainly the referee can buy stuff.
Mhm. All right, and the final play would have been the Cedric handball, which I got no idea how that gets awarded as a penalty, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's unfortunate, obviously, that Cedric's arm is up, and often when it's up, it seems to it spells trouble, really, doesn't it? But to me, obviously, looking at the situation as a whole, Cedric has his back to where the ball essentially comes from, and the guy jumps from behind him and heads it down onto his arm. What can a player possibly do from there, and with the player being so close as well, to me it's not a penalty. I think there was something similar as well. It just in the Argentina game just gone where a cross comes in and Rojo, headers it onto his own arm inside box, and that wasn't given as a penalty. To me, I would penalties under the same category um, as non-penalties essentially. So.
I could see
Um,
the Rojo one being, more of a penalty because his arms are like wide and like that's not supernatural. That's not
Yeah,
a
but
supernatural position. Uh,
but then again,
what makes Cedric's one worse though is that it's the guy heading the ball against his arm. You know, and
yeah,
also yeah,
yeah,
it happened
but
with Rojo, but it's just like it's unfortunate. Like they're stupid. Like it's like I don't think Cedric could do anything there because he's not even looking, and that's what's frustrating. And Ho one, like how does
yeah,
the Ho one? Yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, I would have seen it. Like I think it would have been easier to call the Ho one. I think it would have been much easier to call that one. But it's like if they don't call one of those, like they can't call Cedric, especially because the freaking dude headed the ball against his arm, and he's
I mean,
not.
I'm not sure about the Rojo one because again, yeah, looking from Rojo's perspective, headed the ball and he does header it. It's just unfortunate that he headed it onto his. Regardless, I think both of those there's nothing the defender can possibly. I would like to see a bit of sense awarded to the defenders in that sort of situation. Missed the penalty decision, non-penalty.
Yeah, it's yeah. It was
And
just
obviously, it sucks to be that sort of to potentially dangerous side of the tournament tree, don't they? And finishing behind Spain.
yeah, we could have avoided France, for example, and now if we go through, it's likeliness of us either facing France or Argentina. It's just stupid because we shouldn't be facing either of those teams, but it is what it is. Um, it just kind of keeps showing to me that the VAR still needs a lot more perfection. Like it needs to be way more perfected. And I
No,
had my own idea where I think it would have been much easier if we scrapped the VAR and had replay, like an actual replay, where either the referee, if he was in doubt, he could see it, or like teams would have like two challenges or whatever to specific plays where it would be reviewable. Because I think the VAR misses a lot of stuff, including freaking Mascherano going the whole game with his freaking with blood on his face. I don't understand how that didn't get. He didn't even get called off the field for that, which is ridiculous. But I think if they had some other type of system, maybe not an actual referee, being upstairs and giving out the calls, it would have been actually easier if the referee just like, oh, I'm not sure about this play. Let me just review it myself. Because there's just a lot of doubt about it because it's so many people making the decision, but at the end, it's only one guy that actually matters, and he could go up against everybody else, and his word would stand above all of them. So it's kind of useless to have all those referees, you know?
Yeah, but I think at the end, the VAR is essentially just a replay, and so I think it's doing its job in that it's giving the referee the opportunity to review the situation, and then he can feed away his interpretation of it via his decision. I think it's still about it. It's still very much the referee's fault if he gives a wrong decision, in my opinion. A lot of the will be up to interpretation of the referee, and that's the way some decisions are sometimes. We can have, how many debates do we have at length of over, oh, well, that was a penalty, or that was no. A lot of that will still happen, but you just obviously referees upbringing as a professional that he'd make the right decision. I think in this situation, in Portugal's situation, it was the wrong one. But I do think it's wrong to then focus the VAR. To me, it's always the referee who you decision. And if you take away, as I say this millions of times, if you take away the VAR, the referee will probably still make the same mistake plus way more. I do think the VAR has been quite successful actually at this World Cup. I do like the pace that it's being used at as well, which is a positive. It's very different to a lot of the stuff that we experience in the Portuguese league. I think in the Portuguese league, it tends to take too long. But then again, Portuguese league is a whole kettle of fish. The way, like the decisions and all that, or the way we analyze all that. So you do understand why it does take so long as well. But
yeah, and I mean, we a lot of people say that the lines or whatever, we can't use the lines, but they use lines in the freaking World Cup. So it's like, what's happening here? Like, why Portuguese people say we can't use lines, and then you go to the World Cup and everybody's using the lines, and
yeah, I mean, if FIFA, for example, have a tool, which I believe they do, and they can computerize that perfectly. Obviously, that helps. And then the problem with to track into their conditions. Essentially, there are some stadiums that aren't prepared to even have VAR working to standard, full stop, which is obviously a shame because, as I said, in Portugal, we don't really analyse the football. We analyse the decisions that happen in football. So, if ever a league needed VAR, it's that one.
Do you remember that play? I think it was an offside that we never actually got to see if he was offside or not because the Paz Ferreira fan flag was in front of
against the Boa Vista game. Yeah, exactly. These are the things. Yeah. On the whole, I think it's been very good in the World Cup. It's even been quite. I do. There's an element of it that's quite exciting, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
You're waiting there in anticipation. I do like that.
I'm gonna tell you that I didn't celebrate a lot of the goals that I would usually celebrate this year. I was like, is he offside? I thought he was offside. Maybe he looked offside at me, and I just kind of kept on waiting till the replay.
Yeah. But it's nice, obviously. Sporting had a nice sweet moment like that as well. I think it was early on in the season against Estoril, where Estoril scored, and obviously it was a downer. But then VAR rules that off, and it's almost like another goal for your team. So it does offer moments like that can be quite special. I think as a whole, I think it's really positive. You
Also
just got
hope
to hope
against
that the
you guys
referee.
with Studio 2. Remember?
Yeah, yeah. You just got to hope that the feel of it. You just got to hope he knows what he's doing and he makes the right decision for the game. Because if he doesn't, then obviously you do wonder why. But
Mhm.
you know, my review of it is that it's the way forward, and I'm fully accepting of it.
All right. With that said, let's move on to one of the final bits of discussion here. We got to talk about the groups, and we'll go over to the ones that we already know, what has been decided, and how our predictions have fared. So we'll start off with Group A. Patrick's not 100% sure on his pick, but I'm pretty sure he picked Russia, so we're going to go with Russia here. Anyway, I said Uruguay and Egypt. I was dead wrong on Egypt. They end with 0 points. The disappointment of the World Cup, most likely, to be honest with you. Very poor performance. Uruguay finished with 9 points. You said Uruguay and Russia, so you got that one right.
Yeah, Uruguay look. I said they would be, and they've got some very decent players and a very strong defence, which Portugal might find difficult. But that there was, I think it could be reminiscent of the times when Portugal just squeaked through in Euro 2016. Equally dangerous teams like Croatia and Poland, and Portugal managed to find a way to get past them. Maybe they'll find a way to get past Uruguay as well. We'll see, but it's a very dangerous team. And
Yeah,
on the flip side, to their really strong defense, they got bags of goals in Cavani, and so it'll be an interesting game, I think.
definitely. It's gonna be heated. So on Group B, I had Portugal and Spain. You had Spain and Portugal, but it was a lot closer than what you expected. I mean, Spain go through because they scored one more goal than us, even though we conceded one less goal. Um, but this one was definitely a lot closer than what you expected and what I expected, especially with Iran. If that last ball, that goes just wide off our post, goes in, we're out and they're in. So
Yeah, yeah, it was very tight. I didn't expect Iran for one to be as close to going through as they were. And I certainly expected Spain to run away with it even after the managerial change and what have you. And maybe they could have had they beaten Portugal, which wasn't they weren't far off doing. They were just a Ronaldo moment away from doing so. And obviously a little shout out to Morocco, who I thought were really fun to watch at times. It just lacked a little bit of cutting edge and perhaps a nice, a nice striker that's in line with all the playmakers that they have. But yeah, really fun team to watch, and they put on a good display again against Spain, and at least walk out with a point. So happy for them for that.
I agree. They just needed a little bit more luck too. That Amrabat shot that hits the bar.
Yeah,
That would have been a hell of a goal. Moving on to Group C, I believe I had Peru in here, so I'm gonna go France and Peru. And you had France and Denmark. Obviously, you get that right. Denmark goes through with 5 points. Peru with 3 points after defeating Australia. With a goal from Carreiro, by the way. Not just.
yeah, great goal. Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, France topped the group.
Yeah, a very sourceless group. I think this is one of the most boring groups that we've had so far. France have been pretty underwhelming. Australia, on the other hand, who are obviously going out, that they don't have too much to offer. And in Denmark, who go through with France as I predicted, they have a very interesting squad with like the likes of Pione Sisto and Kasper Dolberg, obviously Christian Eriksen and whatnot. But they just I don't know they just haven't managed to package it all together and excite us in a way that um, perhaps you would have expected. But they go through. We'll see what they'll do. I think of all the teams, the team that I've been most interested in is your pick, which is Peru. I think they were the team that played the most exciting football, and so it's a shame to see them not qualify on the basis of what they presented. Likes of Carillo and all that had very impressive World Cups. Um, so yeah, it's a shame to be losing them as well, just like Morocco. Um, but from a from a French perspective, and there's certainly a lot more teams throughout the tournament. I think we're going to need to see a whole lot more from France as well, just as we mentioned about Portugal and Spain, if they hope to win the title, which they could.
Mhm. Another team that we're also sad to see not make it to the next round is Nigeria. I had Croatia and Nigeria to win Group D. You had Croatia and Argentina. Argentina ends up going through, sneaking one in the end. They won one, tied one, lost one, but I believe they were underwhelming in all three of these games. Very lucky to go through here.
Yeah, I think today was definitely their best performance, and that was largely down to a few individuals like Eva Banega and Lionel Messi, and obviously that really made the team tick better. But in the other two games, I don't think Argentina ever really settled on their shape, or they never really got the ball moving quick enough and into no, they're dangerous players. And Sampaoli's had a very strange use of his squad. Really, you got guys like Dybala who's on the bench, and obviously Aguero now might find himself out of the team with whatever's going on between him and the manager, and I just find it really strange and bizarre, especially with some of the players that didn't even make the squad, like Leandro Paredes and whatnot. Um, so with all that in mind, I mean, coming into the tournament, I did expect Argentina to disappoint a bit. But as I said, I did think they'd be able to squeeze through, and they did that today. Um, they could grow from this performance, but we'll see.
I don't think so, but we'll see. I think this is going to be one of the most boring matches that we'll see in the next round, which will be France and Argentina. I think that's going to be a terrible game.
Yeah, shout
Uh,
out to Croatia, who they've been one of the most impressive sides in the tournament as well.
9 points, 3 straight wins. Very good, very decent team. I don't think they'll make it too far, but they're definitely an interesting side. I just hope that we're able to take them on again like we did last time. So you know. But anyway, now moving on to what has not been decided here. Most of it. There's a couple of not been decided, but Group E, we got. I predicted Brazil and Serbia. You predicted Brazil and Switzerland. I mean, it's Brazil 4 points, Switzerland 4 points, Serbia 3 points, and Costa Rica with zero. Uh, the real showdown is between Serbia and Switzerland, right? Did they play or did they? I don't know who plays in the final.
Yeah, so Switzerland beat Serbia in the last game.
Oh, right. Serbia played Brazil.
So
Right.
it's Serbia, Brazil, and Switzerland, Costa Rica.
Right.
And obviously Brazil need a result there, so it could be complicated for your pick, Serbia.
I don't
Um,
know, man. We're gonna see Serbia and Switzerland make it through, and Brazil stays home, and it would be the perfect, it would be the perfect irony, though, to them making the Messi Ciao song, and they're the ones actually getting knocked down in the group stages.
yeah, we've seen a few stories like that in past World Cups and whatnot. So it's one you'll have to keep an eye on. It could happen.
But you think Brazil and Switzerland are gonna go through, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Brazil again. I don't think any team has really risen to the occasion yet, but Brazil have had some good moments in between games where they really have turned on the style, and they've got the players to do that. Coutinho, Neymar, Douglas Costa, William when he plays, Firmino or Gabriel Jesus. These are players that are on a similar wavelength. So I think they can really do something this tournament. They are my tip to win. So I'd expect them to finish their job off against Serbia and qualify. Switzerland as well. They've been impressive in that they haven't started their games very well, but they do know how to turn it around. You'd expect them to get the job done against Costa Rica as well. But who knows? Countries like Costa Rica, they love the World Cup, and with them being on 0 points, they want to leave something behind as well. So they'll be playing for pride. It could complicate itself for Switzerland if they're not on their game, but I expect them to sort that out and come in for my prediction.
I'm glad you didn't mention anything specific about Switzerland. I'm happy about it.
About your man up
Yeah,
top.
yeah, you
Yeah,
know.
he has to ride the bench. I'm afraid. Put on Embolo or something. They're far more threatening when he comes on.
Jesus. Anyway, Group F, we both had Germany to win the group and Mexico to finish second. Any of these three teams can go through, though. Mexico, Germany, and Sweden. It's gonna be really interesting. We could see all three of them finish with 6 points. And
Yeah. Germany obviously given that lifeline by Tony Kroos at the end of their game. You can't knock back a Germany win. I think it's very difficult. I think um, they'll be all out for it against South Korea. So um, I expect them to go up to 6 points, and then it's between Mexico and Sweden. I can see a draw coming out of that one, which would put Mexico top and Germany second, wouldn't it?
yeah, but even with the loss, Mexico still goes through first. So I mean, Mexico's fine. Oh wait, no,
But
they
it
not
depends on
because
goal
it
difference,
will.
doesn't it?
No, wait, no. Isn't it head to head first though?
I think it's just goal difference. I'm not
Goal
sure.
difference is +2 for Mexico though. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah,
it also depends how much Germany smacks Korea around. That's also
which might happen. We never know.
probably.
I mean, South Korea are an interesting side, but I just think they do lack a bit in attack. Sometimes they're a bit over reliant on Son, and Lee
Not even
Song Woo
playing.
is an interesting player, but I don't think it.
Who's not playing? Is it Park? I know one of the guys isn't playing for Korea. One of the key guys, sir. You know who it is?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, just
Park, well, I don't know if they've got another Park, but the legendary Park's gone.
I don't know, man. I just saw that they had somebody. I know they had somebody hurt. I'm not trying to look it up right now. Let's just see if there's anything here. Uh, I'm just gonna look it up real quick. But anyway, we'll see what happens there. I keep trying to find it, and it's like still a glimmer. What are you going about? I'm trying to see with their top player. Yeah, they say that their top player is out injured. I don't know who's that top player. Who's that top player though?
Could it be Ki
Hold
Sung
up.
Yeon?
Let's see. God, why is it? Oh my God, what the Washington Post is like asking me to subscribe to them. What the hell is this? Anyway, let me see if I can find it though. All right. Who has been Ki Sung Young was
Oh,
ruled
from
out with
Swansea.
yeah. There you go. It was Ki Sung Young. So there you go.
Yeah, and he makes things tick in the middle of the park. So no, I expect Germany to win that, as you would. I do think Germany are a good. No, in attack, I think things are flowing quite well. It's just their defence that gets over adventurous sometimes and leaves gaps at the back. And they really need to sort that out. Otherwise, they'll run into trouble somewhere along the line during this tournament, perhaps even against South Korea. But um, as a whole, I think Germany are playing quite well.
They are, but we'll see what ends up happening. Group G. God damn it, I did the same thing again. Group G. England and Belgium. I don't know who we had pegged to win the group. I think I had Belgium. I'm not sure if we had England, but either way, it's gonna come down to a showdown between these two to see who goes first because they both qualified. As Tunisia and Panama have 0 points each.
Yeah, I think I may have gone for England to finish top. I think it's probably. I saw this morning. I think it's probably better for England to finish second because they fall on that side of the tournament tree. But going head to head, it could be a quite tricky game for England. I think they left a few gaps open at the back against Panama. Obviously, coming into a game like the Belgian one, your mentality is different, so you should close up a bit more. But there are gaps for Belgium to exploit, especially if they bring on someone like Moussa Dembele into the middle of their midfield and push De Bruyne further up. Him and Hazard, I think, can find a lot of gaps in behind England's midfield. Personally, if I'm England, I move Kyle Walker out to right back, which would be a shame for Kieran Trippier because he's had a really good World Cup so far. And I'd bring Eric Dyer in to the back line because he can not only can he play centre back, but should you need to be a bit more fluid, you can put him in that defensive midfield as well, and he can maybe cut out those runs from De Bruyne or Hazard should they try to get in behind the midfield. I'd also like to see Danny Rose instead of Ashley Young because I hate to see fullbacks playing on the wrong side that they play with. For example, Ashley Young is right-footed and he's playing on the left as a fullback. I really hate seeing that. So I hope to see Danny Rose start for England, and we'll see what England can do against Belgium. But it'll be an interesting game because
I
obviously
will think it's gonna.
Martinez grew up managing in Britain, so it'd be nice to see that clash happen. It could be a boring one.
You feel it just has all the ingredients of being a boring game. Neither team wants to lose. They both play okay, sometimes good football, sometimes very poor football.
Yeah,
And it could go either way.
we'll see what happens. At the moment, I think England's top, right, in that
Yeah,
group.
they are.
Yeah, so obviously a draw would mean that there's no way for England to. Obviously, England will want a positive result to keep up momentum and belief and all that. Um, but you do start to think about whether it'd be better to finish first or second, depending on what side of the tournament tree you're in.
Yeah, but it's not like you're going to,
Yeah, lose on
heat up
purpose.
the
Yeah,
game
exactly.
because you
See,
can't wait to win.
Belgium's in a more favourable position in that sense because they can just draw and just a draw's a draw. You know what I mean? If you're through, you're through. They could play a bit with that, but for England it's a bit harder, obviously, because they're already top. So perhaps they'll be going for the win and just try and keep momentum, and then they can say, "Yeah, we beat a team like Belgium. We're not scared of anyone else. Let's go."
Yeah, and as for the last group, I mean, I think it's a total surprise. I had Poland and Senegal, and and you had Colombia and Senegal, and I mean, Poland have 0 points. They are maybe alongside Egypt the biggest disappointment in the World Cup, I would say. And Japan's topping this group right now. And if Colombia wins, there's no way Japan doesn't make it through. And that was something I don't think we we saw coming. But anyway, Japan 4 points, Senegal 4 points, and Colombia 3 points. Obviously, the big game is Colombia against Senegal. That's gonna decide, uh, the group. So, what do you think?
Um, Everything's still wide open because start from the bottom. I mean, Poland are a big footballing nation, and they'll want to leave something behind again. Being stuck on 0 points, a lot of people had them as a dark horse and whatnot, and had them to do well. They've got quality players, obviously. With Lewandowski and Zielinski and whatnot. So in a sense, it is a bit of an upset, but it is one of those groups that I think they've packaged four really good and interesting teams together. So it was always going to be difficult to call. Um, I do think Colombia are favourites going into the Senegal game. I would like to see Senegal do something, perhaps get a draw, um, and that would mean Poland would probably have to beat Japan, and then we'll see what happens there. But Um, uh, there is no Japan. Japan. Are you saying so? Japan's more or less through then?
They are. They have 4 points. Colombia has three, and Senegal has four, but they're ahead of Senegal. So Colombia,
No,
Colombia,
wait. If Colombia and Senegal draw, that puts Senegal on 5. They top the group.
and then Colombia loses because Colombia lost. Wait, it goes to goal
If it
difference.
goes to goal
If it's
difference, it would
head to head,
depend on what Poland can do against Japan.
yeah. If it's head to head, Japan goes through. If it's goal difference, it depends
And
on.
what's the goal difference between Colombia and Japan?
Let me see that again. Hold on. Uh, I had left there. Hold on. So standings. We have Japan with a goal difference of 1, and Colombia have a goal difference of 2. So
Right.
Colombia have a better goal difference.
So yeah, it's still all wide open in that group.
Yeah,
It's a
but I
nice
mean,
group.
I'm
I've
just
enjoyed
saying
that one.
that if you had to pick somebody as the favorite going into this final week, it'd have to be Japan. Going through because I mean, they're definitely in the most comfortable position in the way. Even though obviously Poland does want to leave something behind, but it could
Yeah.
also some of the players slacking off at the end of the day, and it would work against them.
Yeah,
And
I mean, Japan will fight tooth and nail for sure against Poland to secure at least a point and make it through. But
they played really
it
well.
just depends how much Poland's pride is hurting as well. Because I think if Poland come out with a good attitude, they can definitely beat Japan. As for going back to Colombia and Senegal, it's one of those. I think Colombia they've had their slip up. They were down to 10 men against Japan, obviously, so it was a bit of a cruel one. And they rose to the occasion against Poland, and I think they should be able to do it again against Senegal. I would consider Colombia a stronger team than Senegal. It'd be a shame to lose Senegal should that happen. Um, from from my point of view, I personally enjoy watching Colombia and Senegal the most. So I'd like to see them to go through, not just because I predicted, and I'd probably have a full house in terms of predictions, but they're the two teams I've enjoyed watching the most. Um, but it's such a difficult group to call. I thought it would be from the start. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to the predictions of what we have so far of the round of 16 games. We'll leave Uruguay Portugal for last, so we can kind of look into that game a little bit more in depth. But we got a couple of games where I don't know. So Croatia, Denmark. I think Croatia has the upper hand by far on this game. I'd be surprised if they lose.
Um, yeah, you would back Croatia after the bits they've done in their group. You would back Croatia to get something over Denmark and go through. Obviously, their midfield is ticking quite nicely, and a lot of people like to say that midfield controls games. So I would say Croatia have been one of the more impressive teams in this World Cup. Um, they will have the tools to dismantle what Denmark's got to offer. But it's still quite a tight game. But I'd say
Yeah,
Croatia go through.
yeah, me too. Um, Spain, Russia. I think this game would have been a lot different had Russia put up a fight against Uruguay. I think the moment they faced an actual team, they got decimated. So
Yeah,
there's no way I can bet against Spain on this one.
yeah, I'd have to back Spain obviously, and I think Spain need um, a big display as well coming into this one, and I'd back them to do it. Against a team like Russia. So I'll go with Spain.
France, Argentina.
That is a difficult one. In terms of teams, I think France is way more complete than what Argentina is. But it could be the game that Argentina needs to really wake up. But I think too much is going on behind the scenes at Argentina. So I'll go for France to win that one.
Yeah, same here. I think it's gonna be a really boring game. But France goes through. But we'll see. I think Argentina doesn't stand a chance, even though they both play very poor football at times. So uh, it's just that Argentina hasn't produced anything in international, football for, I don't know, the past 4 years, maybe over that. So I can't really peg them to beat France in this game.
They did get to the final in 2014
Yeah, there you go. So that's like, and then and I know that
in
they
the
had
Copa
good
America. Yeah,
performances, and yeah, but they always looked a bit lackluster at times. So um, especially this last qualifying stage on,
yeah, yeah.
Russell almost didn't make it. And last but not least, so far, Uruguay, Portugal. Now, obviously, I think with our guts, I think we're gonna end up going for Portugal, but this game's gonna be, it
It's
can be really tricky.
I'm gonna go with a super tight affair that Portugal will probably squeeze past, just like they did against Croatia and Poland. I don't know. This one feels like extra time to me,
Yeah.
and somehow at some point Portugal will get that goal and they'll set up a date with France in the quarterfinals.
Yeah. And as stupid as it may sound, I'm a lot more confident taking on France than I am taking on Uruguay. But it's just because it's a team that plays a lot like us, Uruguay, and very physical, very defensive, but also have very good strikers, two very good
Yeah,
strikers. So
and I
tough.
would I would say Uruguay's in mentally is in a better space than Portugal right now in terms of confidence. I think they've been able, when they've needed to play well and link play together, they've been able to do that in all phases of their game, which is very different to what Portugal have done. So I think they won't have as much pressure coming into that game.
Yeah. So that's about it when it comes to the World Cup. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to touch upon.
No, that's it. I think we've covered um, the goings on quite well.
Yeah. Just to mention that Portugal plays at 7 p.m. Normal Portuguese, GMT +0 time zone. That would be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That would be 2 p.m. in the U.S. Eastern Standard Time Zone for everybody that lives in the U.S. or Canada with that time zone. So moving on to the final bit of the show, I mean, it's impossible to go around this. Obviously, it was everywhere and still is up to yesterday. Basically, it was the talking point with the Assembly Geral that happened on Sporting's behalf. You know, Bruno Carvalho has been dismissed, the first ever Sporting president to be dismissed, and it was pretty much a very uh, one-sided result, with 70% saying for him to leave, with only roughly 30% saying for him to stay. Uh, Patrick, obviously, just your whole thoughts on the situation and what you think will happen to Mialovic. I don't freaking know how to say.
Yeah.
The coach.
Um, I could certainly see it coming that Bruno Carvalho would go. As I said at the time, what we hear is often um, those that back the club and back what Bruno Carvalho has done, and rightly so. He has done lots of positive things. A lot of fans have remembered that, and um, by being more vocal, at times it seems like Bruno Carvalho has all the support in the world, but um, part of me believed that that wasn't the case, and that's what's proven at the end of the day, that they voted to get him out, which is, to me, looking at this situation, I don't think there was a right answer in this equation at all, because obviously it makes no sense to keep someone like Bruno Carvalho who's completely lost his filter and has gone against the club and put the club in a dangerous position where they could lose so many players and whatnot. And obviously, this is the ideal preparation come into a season. But then again, it's about the plan that you have after Bruno Carvalho, and you sort of think, um, would it not be better to just keep Bruno Carvalho there, who knows more or less what he's doing, and that way he can put a squad together like he has with the signings that he's made and with the appointment that he's made to be manager. I think the guys that appear to be coming in, even on an interim basis, are making some big calls, as you say. Sinisa Mihajlovic, who's just come into the job. Word is that they're finding a loophole to actually cancel his contract now, and I don't know who comes in
Not
as
an
manager
actual.
then.
It's not an actual loophole, by the way. Just to fill you in on that, there's at least in Portugal, at least there's a 15 day kind of trial, quote unquote, where if basically if neither side feel very comfortable with their job or whatever it is, they can terminate it without any, without actually paying the full
Yeah,
length of the contract. So I think that's what they're trying to go at is just basically here this happened, this situation here where we're not sure if the president that's going to be here September 8th is actually going to want you here, so we're just going to like try and terminate the contract that
yeah.
way.
But see, to me, I'd rather have him there already. We know that he's got an interesting enough CV as a manager coming into the Portuguese league. We'll see how that could translate itself. I'd much rather have him who has a plan already for the players that he's been given. I'd rather give him, pre-season and the games coming into the season to prove himself beyond ahead of what might happen in September than what happens after Mihajlovic is gone? Who comes in? Can these guys actually make what's the appointment going to be? Is it going to be a B team manager coming in or something like that? The preparation is going to be so off for Sporting coming into the season that you more or less think you might as well just scrap the season altogether. It's just disappointing to see what it's all descending to. I don't think well, I don't know what the possibilities are to have moved all these dates forwards, but I think we should have had this AG this General Assembly meeting a lot earlier and thought about elections a lot earlier. Should a result like this happen,
Yeah, I was going to ask
it
you.
just everything just seems far too spaced out for the urgency of the situation.
Yeah,
And
because apparently that's part of the rules, where they need some kind of specific waiting period till they can have a general elections. To me, that feels fairly ridiculous, and I'm sure that you, as a sporting fan, is hoping that, I won't speak about a case, of somebody being dismissed, but in an accident where, your president ends up leaving or whatever it is, that elections don't happen, like 3 months later. I find it quite surprising. I would have the elections next month, to be honest with you, and that's like the
yeah,
latest
exactly.
I would agree with it because the biggest issue and something that you have to tackle and you try to, but it's extremely hard is none of these guys. They already said that none of them are going to run for presidency, right? So what makes them believe that that the coach that they bring in is going to be the coach that the president or that gets elected wants? Like if they keep Mialovic, at least they have some type of continuity because he's already familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he didn't take the Sporting job out of nowhere,
Yeah,
right? He studied the players, he studied the team, and he kind of has an idea. So I would think that would make sense to keep him, or at least maybe try and reduce the contract, maybe yet like a year or 2 years, so it's not a 3 year contract. But to release him would be kind of dumb because at least he would have the knowledge of the team and he wouldn't just fly out of nowhere into someone that especially because if you put in a new manager in, I don't know, if he joins like during the start of preseason, that's already asking too much to get results right away. And if Mialovic kind of has a quote unquote normal preseason, you know it would actually help Sporting at least in the short term when it comes to results.
Yeah, and that's what leads me to believe that they'll pick someone much like themselves, someone on an interim basis, someone with probably a low key profile, whatever, and just to be there and try to make the best of it. But that's when you pin that against Mihajlovic. I don't know whether it'd be better to just give Mihajlovic the chance. He could be a good manager, and you're just letting him go for what reason? Because the president comes in might not fancy him. If he does a good job in pre-season, and let's not judge him solely on that. He might have a rubbish pre-season. Jorge Jesus had some mediocre ones, but he was still the man come the start of the season. Depending on the work that he puts in, to me, I think that he should just be given a chance. The situation is so problematic at Sporting where we're just thinking how is this club going to prepare for the new season without so many players rescinding their contracts and whatnot. You have to formulate a team. I just think by getting rid of a manager who's already preparing to solve the situation, by throwing him out the window, it just adds to the problem. So it's difficult to watch, obviously, and you never quite know what's going to happen tomorrow as a Sporting fan. That's just how we're living at the moment. Um, so yeah, it's disappointing to see it all crumble like this, but it happens. And obviously, um, with the names being touted around, I'm not too confident either by who succeeds Bruno Carvalho. So it's a bit of a downer.
Yeah, but he put them all on himself. The dude went on a downward spiral, like you were saying. He lost it. He lost it completely.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I suggested. There's Sporting fans coming into this AG. I don't think there was a right answer in that. In what they were asked, do we get rid of Bruno Carvalho or do we keep him? Because obviously we're keeping an eye on uh, the well-being of the squad as well, and I know a lot of Sporting fans, including myself, we don't really want many of the problems that are attached to Bruno Carvalho. Sometimes you just wish you crack on with the football and the joy that it brings. Um, but then it's what comes after Bruno Carvalho that's such a huge worry as well. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
We'll see. At the end of the day, I think that you always have, there's not only Gudin Lopes and there's not only Bruno Carvalho. I think there's always, there's always something in the middle. And maybe you guys, will finally get the rub of the green, because, just somebody kind of like Bruno Carvalho, but not as crazy as Bruno Carvalho would be the best for you guys. But, we'll see what happens come September 8th. There's still a lot of time for some people to run, especially Rogério Alves. That's the one that you guys should be praying that runs for presidency because he would definitely be the one to pick.
I'm not entirely convinced by him. As I said, I'm not convinced by any of the names circling. Certainly not Ford, who I see wants to come in again.
Nah. He's said several times like, nah, I don't have the profile to be a president. I'm like, of course not, you don't.
Yeah,
That would be crazy. Nah.
Varandas is obviously the one who has stepped forward, but I'm not convinced by him either.
Takes
Uh,
time. Takes time
we'll,
to
we'll see what else comes in.
what they're gonna do. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit scary right now. But at least it's a little bit better in a sense where you're not stuck with having Bruno Carvalho make buy players and stuff and end up getting called off as president at the
Yeah,
end anyway. So there's
with
that.
the power that they've come after Bruno Carvalho, with shareholders and whatnot, all coming out of the woods to bring him down. Part of me believes there is going to be a big player in the elections that's about to be announced. We'll see who it is by the end of the day. But I reckon for sure that all these guys that have come together essentially to try and bring Bruncavalli down. Well, they've succeeded to do so. I reckon there's a name behind all of that, and we'll see who that is.
We'll see. Definitely, it's gonna be interesting. Um, is there anything else you want to say, Patrick, before we get off the air?
No, I hope we don't speak about Sporting next week
Yeah, I
because
hope
it's
so too.
depressing me.
But though, if you had to give out a scoreline for our game, what would the scoreline be?
For the Uruguay Portugal game,
Yes.
we're
Go
going
on.
we're going with the basics. 1-0 Portugal. 112th minute.
All right. I got us winning 2-1, but in extra time. So brace yourselves. Maybe 3 goals in extra time. Make things interesting.
Why
Brace
not?
yourselves, people. It's gonna be an interesting game.
We need
And
a bit. We need a bit more emotion in the World Cup, I think.
right, don't we? Don't we just Portugal fans?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, thank you everybody that listened. Thank you, Patrick. And 100 episodes, and this one was very chill, very nice. You know, nothing special. Just keep on grinding, keep doing what you're doing. But we appreciate all the support, and maybe we'll have some news along the way. So you just stay tuned for that. With that said, I'm Peter. That's Patrick, and we're out. Bye bye.